What the heck is this?
In the land where shadows play, dragons rise at break.
This right here is known as a Cinquedea, and today on the channel we're going to be discussing this, its historical context, and if you stay towards the end we're going to talk about some different ways that I think these were used. Now we'll go ahead and dispense with the scabbard here really quick, which is kind of a nice rudimentary scabbard that would be fairly common. I really appreciate the fullers that this one's been done. This Cinquedea, it's called Cinquedea, which means 5 fingers in Italian, and that's because you can place 5 fingers along there, or it has 5 fullers. This one only has 4 fillers, and it scales down to 3, and then 2, and then narrows to kind of a wider tip over there. This Cinquedea was made by Brian Kerce, and I'll put a link to his shop down over here so you can kind of see what he does. He's very famous for making some really high quality, good-looking swords from back in the day. We're going to give you a good look at this sword. So right here you can see we have a nice hardwood grip with these lovely brass or copper rivets there with some beautiful designs going on. We have it peened through the end with a beautiful little floral pattern there. A brass cap. We have a guard right here. You can look down the center of the blade and you can see it's pretty tightly fitted on both sides. The sword is solid. It's big enough for just one hand on there, and with a glove it feels very, very, very comfortable. We have a good little nub right there. So I believe these weren't necessarily a hammer grip one. This is more of we're gripping it in kind of a handshake grip, just like we would be doing with our longsword. Now the Cinquedea, this one was built, for me specifically, modeled off of a reenactment kit that I'm going to be putting together. Cinquedea from back in the day, popular during the late 1400s, early 1500s, for a very short period of time, mostly a northern Italian persuasion is what it looks like. And these types of swords weren't necessarily used by the military. We do see a couple of pictures of them described there, but this is mostly a civilian sword, and it's somewhere halfway between a sword and a dagger, because you can see it's quite short. This is only about 1 cubit in length, this one specifically. Some of them are a little bit longer, some of them are a little bit shorter, and a Cinquedea is really defined by that 5-finger distance down here towards the bottom of the guard, which is absolutely beautiful in my opinion. Now the Cinquedea, we know, is most likely not going to be a fighter's sword in war, and we kind of know that because you can see that this guard is pretty small. I don't imagine you're going to be catching a lot of blades sliding down and then engaging and winding and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Also because this one is super small. There's not really a manual describing how these guys have been used either, so we're really guessing based on just the form of the sword. To me, this sword really feels very, very choppy, and you can tell because it's just a very fat blade going up. So I don't imagine that we're going to be spending a lot of time trying to lunge into the points, trying to get little points right here, because you're going to be having to avoid the sword from your opponent. So assuming that this sword is going to be used against other swords of its same type, there's a few ideas that we can have about how they were used. So if we look at a traditional longsword, obviously you can see we have a much bigger guard. This one's a synthetic one, so it's polypropylene, so I can use it against blades without dulling them. This sword is used very point forward, very cutting, very diversified in the thrust. You can do all kinds of things with a longsword. And I think in an open fight, a sword like this is going to kick the Cinquedea's butt. However, there is one specific circumstance that I believe the Cinquedea would have an advantage over your longsword. Well, welcome to my narrow alleyway here. We have a shed on one side and a vinyl fence on this side. But imagine that this is a tight medieval street. Northern Italy, 1457. We're right here in the middle of the tight Venetian streets, and I have this hidden right here underneath my cloak. As I approach whoever I am looking at, perhaps a member of the Medici family, I can draw my sword, or my dagger, and then come up behind him very slowly and knife him, or cut him. Now, if I was using a longsword, this motion of drawing out, making a quick attack, drawing out, cutting at him, is not going to work. We don't have enough room in here. Let me show you. So my longsword, if it's underneath my cloak, first of all, we are not going to be able to conceal this nearly as well. You can see it pokes out the back of my cloak quite heavily, and up here I have a handle. So if I am sneaking around, people are going to think that I'm a little bit more suspicious. I can't turn the corners very well if I'm sneaking through these uneven medieval streets. Moving back and forth, I'm going to be knocking around. I'm going to be having an issue with here. Longswords as well also take a really long time to draw. So it's not a quick draw like you would see there. And if I'm sneaking up behind somebody, I can sneak up to him and still stab him. But imagine trying to cut over here, hitting the buildings, hitting here, having an issue sneaking up. I'm not going to be able to stick this in my opponent, quickly retract it, sheath it, and run away before people can see what's going on. So I think the Cinquedea is going to prevail in those very tight alleyways, especially in northern Italy, places like Venice, where this was particularly popular. So let's say that we aren't able to sneak up on our opponent and stick this into him or cut him really heavily. How would these have been used against each other? Well, we can tell, because we don't have the guard, we're not going to be making a lot of blade-on-blade contact. And recently, they actually had a tournament down at SoCal Sword Fight in last year, which I'm excited to go to this year, where they had Cinquedea simulators that they were using fighting each other. And the gold medal match, I'll go ahead and show you a look here, over here on this side of the screen. Most of the attacks are going to be we're staying out of distance, watching our opponent's tempo. Once their sword goes away, or perhaps they've swung and missed, I can take that sword, cut into his hands, and then back up. There is one really specific circumstance, too, where somebody tries to make a cut, and then they take their sword and wrap around their arms and then cut into him. So, some really tight grappling. It reminds me a lot of later Bowie knife sources from the 1800s, of swords that are mostly used as a grappling device, or large daggers used as a grappling device to help engage the opponent in such a manner that it's not going to look very much like your typical medieval winding and binding. So let's say that you are my opponent. I haven't had the opportunity to sneak up on you, but I'm feeling pretty confident in my skills today. I have to be super aware that their sword is almost certainly going to be longer than mine. This is pretty much the shortest that they go, sword/dagger-wise. So this point is going to be not my friend. So what I really have to do is I have to wait for my opponent to assume a position that they are going to be at a disadvantage. We have to rely on them making a mistake, basically. So let's assume my opponent has taken a point-heavy guard. I can engage with my sword, stick it into his sword, perhaps punch him in the face, or his sword is on line. I can take it off to the side, and I can reach around and grab it in such a manner that he can't retract it, and then I can sit there and do whatever I need to my opponent. There is one manual in Fiore, or one HEMA source, Fiore, that talks about this, where we are binding over the top of our opponent. Perhaps I'm grabbing it and cutting down, or if he's super close, he cuts at me, I can drop over the top, my sword can go around, wrap, and grab the guard underneath. This keeps me super safe. I can chop into the hands, I can chop into the opponent, I can do whatever I need, I can chop into the legs, I can stick this into his ribs, I can do all kinds of things. So really we're relying on controlling their sword before I can do anything. Again, we're probably going to be cooked if this is pointing at us specifically. Now, how does the sword actually perform? Once we get in that close, how does it actually do? Now, if you look over here, as soon as you get in close, this is going to be absolutely deadly. It is an amazing cutting sword. If you ever want something fun to just cut in the backyard, or perhaps you don't have a huge space, this is a really good opportunity to practice with this one, because you still need good mechanics to cut into things. Up, 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 down. But it is structured in such a way that when you do cut, you can feel it. And I found this is probably a really good training sword for any type of cutting tournaments that you're training for. If I can get in close with my opponent, this would be completely savage. I mean, the gaps in your ribs are about that big from your sternum. If you can stick that into somebody, I mean, that's not going to be super pretty. You're not going to be able to just take a Band-Aid and walk that off. So, assuming that we can get into our opponent before they can react, either sneaking up on them, or controlling their blade, getting in close, and then making those hacking motions, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And historically, we knew that this wasn't going to be used against things in armor. So things like a longsword fencer would be trained in mostly fighting on the battlefield, or fighting other people with long swords, noblemen. If I can get in and get really quick and dirty with them, there's nothing that they can do to respond to that. So this is a really quick, brutal, very efficient weapon. And we knew this wasn't necessarily a weapon of the peasant class either. These, the ones that survive anyways, are absolutely beautiful. You can see these grooves coming down in here. Mine is a fairly simple one because I really like simple. But these grooves down here were commonly inlaid with gold or silver, pictures of saints, beautiful artwork on here. So really being a status symbol rather than a battlefield weapon is, I think, kind of where this one relied. However, if you do need to use it, imagine a merchant dispute, some guy jumps over the counter in the bank in Venice. This may be exactly what you're looking for. Not only is it small, convenient, and effective when we use it how it's meant to be used, but it can kind of just sit there. We don't have to worry about it knocking around at all. Now this sword specifically is very, very, very stiff. Some of them I believe are a little bit flexier, or more flexible, that's the actual English word. This one is balanced right towards that first rib in the filler, right there. It weighs just over about 1.5 pounds. And everything is rock solid. I'm not sure what kind of metal that is, some kind of wood, some kind of cherry wood or something cool like that. But not only does it just look really good, but it's just a fun thing to possess, fun thing to own. If I can just have that sitting here on my side, in my lovely scabbard right here, whoop, that can just sit right there. And if you're going around in a reenactment fair, or you're having a Renaissance fair, or whatever you have, I can walk around with this all day. I don't have to worry about it bumping into stalls or becoming inconvenient. You can kind of show off because you have this cool thing people haven't seen before. But just imagine how cool that would be. Sitting on your hip, walking around, being like, oh yeah, this is a super uncommon type of Italian sword from the late 15th century. You can really kind of show off. But yeah, that's what that looks like. Absolutely beautiful sword. I encourage you all to go visit Brian Kerce at his shop. He does long swords, small swords, short swords like this. He does great swords that are absolutely beautiful. And he also builds boats. So, I mean, he's a really cool guy. If you're ever feeling like you need some custom work, I would definitely recommend going to his shop. Just because it looks authentic. And he'll make it much better than most other people will. So yeah, there we have it. Thanks for watching till the end. I encourage you guys, again, to go and like and subscribe this video. Go ahead and comment of how you think these guys would be used. And yeah, if you ever want to swing this guy in person, next time you see me, I will probably have it on me. Cool. Thank you so much.
Where shadows play, dragons rise at break of day, hammers echo through the mist, twilight whispers magic kiss.